But I will tell you that every single person in this room, ultimately your success, short-term and long-term, is going to be based on what you do. Your upline can't make you successful. It can't. It won't work that way. Too many people join this business and they treat the opportunity, they treat it like a job. They don't treat it like a business that they actually own. And when you treat it like a job, then you start acting like you treat it like a job. Like some of us treat our uplines like a boss. Like we don't even do anything unless they tell us to do it. You know, we won't go to an event unless they call us. We won't get a customer unless they say, hey, you need to get qualified. Some people treat it like a job. You know, and there are some uplines that they actually think they're your boss. They won't let you do anything without their permission. Did I tell you to do that? You know, I didn't tell you to get qualified. You know, what are you doing? So it's funny because that's just human nature. Human nature plays a lot of roles in this business. So in this environment, you have to treat this like a business that you just invested $1 million in. You guys understand that? If you just invested $1 million into a business, and imagine going to a bank, borrowing $1 million, investing into a business, would you show up the next day? Would you take it serious? Would you have some sense of responsibility? And the answer is yes, because you know what you have on the line. Well, when you only pay a small amount to join a business like this, sometimes people don't treat it that way, but everyone has an upside here equal to the person they're sitting next to and equal to everyone that's been recognized on the stage. But how far you go, it's all going to be based on how you treat the business, how you guys think. Does that make sense, everyone? Okay, so I'm going to jump into the training. It's called Creating Momentum. And when I think of the word momentum, and I was getting trained in my early years, there was 3 stages of momentum I learned. There was creating, there's maintaining, and then there's advancing. And each one happens to all of us in this business. But the maintaining and the advancing, believe it or not, is easier than the creating. Because when you're in the creating segment of building your business, that's where you're going to work the hardest. It's going to feel like you're getting the least amount of results. That's where you're kind of educating yourself on how to build. But when you get to the maintaining and advancing, that's when you're getting more explosive growth, like a snowball rolling down a hill and just collect. It starts to get to a point where it's like a brush fire, and all of a sudden you're sitting back thinking, I can't believe how much success is happening in my organization. So we all love the maintaining and the advancing. But if you can master the creating, this will put you in 100% control of your business from today going forward. And when I say control, I'm going to tell you this because some of you must have thought this way when you got involved in this business. When I first got started in direct sales, one of the things I remember is I felt like I wasn't in control. I felt like my success was based on whether someone else did something. I didn't understand the power of influence. I didn't understand the power of leverage by being a great tool for other people. And that's what this whole training is going to be about. It's just about starting something from nothing. And we got to the point when we started ACN, you know, I had learned this years prior, so we were pretty good at it. Robert and Tony and Greg and I, we used to travel to all different parts of the country when we were expanding in the USA. And I remember, well, I would go to a city and I wouldn't know anyone. Robert would be in another city, he wouldn't know anybody. And then Tony would be in another city, wouldn't know anybody. But you know what? We had a way of getting something sparked, and then we knew how to create momentum, and then before you know it, we had a massive team in that area. And that's how we built ACN. We literally went from city to city to city. So the things I'm going to talk to you about, it's designed for this. It's designed to put you in a position where you can build anytime, anywhere, any place. It's your choice, it's your decision, and that's why there's value in understanding how to create momentum. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, that's going to be the topic. Now, in order to be successful at creating momentum, here's a couple things you have to do. Number 1, you have to learn how to present ACN. You have to learn. Now, I found out something in my early years that only the people that have been in the business for a while should present the opportunity. Don't base it on position, guys. I'm not saying that you have to be an RD to present. You could be an ETL if you want to present, but you should at least understand a little bit about the opportunity if you're out there explaining it. But new IBOs, remember, if somebody's just getting started, we don't want them to present like their first day or their first week. We want to support them. So in their first couple presentations, especially when they're talking to their friends or family or their warm market, we want to allow them to utilize someone else to do the presentation, because that's how they're going to learn. They're going to watch someone else do it, and they're going to pick up all the nuances because the presentations are exactly the same. But the key is, and this is where I had a hard time, when I started doing presentations, and maybe some of you can relate to this, when I started doing presentations, initially it felt like I was selling. Because as humans, we're looking to get a positive response. We want people to say yes to us. So you start falling into like what I call a selling mode. So you start selling the opportunity, and you almost look like you need somebody when you're talking, maybe a little bit desperate or a little bit nervous because, in your mind you think, I've got to get them to say yes, or this is someone I know, and you start focusing on that and you start selling the opportunity, but you're not really doing your job. Here's what your job is when you're presenting. Are you guys ready for this? Think about how easy this is. Your only job is to explain it. Now, the difference between explaining and selling is this. When you're explaining, okay, you're being a servant to the person you're talking to. And they see you as valuable because you're doing something to help them understand. Does that make sense? Help them understand. I'm serving that person. And some people say, well, I try to explain it, but I can never really do it. I start off good, and then I find myself falling in the trap of, selling it again. Well, here's what I did, because it's all in your mind. Before the words come out of your mouth, you've got to kind of see what your role is. So I used to put the word, and this is something that's so simple, but it helps. I used to put the phrase, let me explain, in front of every segment of the presentation. I said, let me explain to you why I think ACN's a good company, and I'd rattle it out. Let me explain to you the different services that are available to you so you understand why this is so powerful. Let me explain to you the ACN marketing advantage and why we can do what we do. Let me explain to you how you get started. Let me explain to you how the customer bonuses work. Let me explain to you how the customer acquisition bonuses work. Let me explain to you. Does that make sense? Just get used to saying, let me explain, let me explain, let me explain. And that phrase will put you right into the position where you're serving that person. And if somebody were to look at you and say, I don't want to know anymore, say, hey, no problem. I'm just here to help. I'm just here to help. And it will transform your ability to present, because your job is not to be the most talented, articulate speaker. You don't even have to know everything you're talking about. All you've got to know is 1% more than the person you're talking to, and guess what you are? You're the expert. So make sure that you understand the key to a successful presentation is don't think it's about talent, it's about your ability to serve that person, make them understand, and explain it. Does that help you guys? Okay. The second thing you want to do is you want to learn how to train people when they're getting started. And people always say, well, what do I teach someone, when they first get started? Because some people get overwhelmed. I just got somebody interested, but what do I teach? Okay, here's all you need to teach. How many of you would love every single person that joined your team to become an ETL? Raise your hand. How would you love that? That's really our first goal. Let's get them to ETL, and let's get them to ETL quickly. So if you look at all the things that somebody needs to understand to become just an ETL, there's your basic training. You don't got to get into like leadership, mindset. You don't got to talk about things that they're not ready for. Just say, look, step one, we're going to get you to ETL. And here's what you need to do to get to ETL. That is your basic training. Everybody can do it. Anybody can do it. And you could probably whip it out in 20 minutes. Now, what's great is most of us have trainings. And one of the other things we want to teach in our trainings is what system you're using. Whatever you're doing, you want to teach your people. So it's about the system so they know how to plug in, but the ultimate goal is ETL. Guys, keep it simple, and remember, your job is to explain it. So when you're training people, think of your job as explaining, not overselling, not over-promoting. Just explain, give them enough understanding, they can take action. The next thing is you have to understand sorting. Okay, now this is the first thing taught. Most of us learn this in our very first basic training, that we sort, we don't sell. It's the first thing that's taught, but it's the hardest thing to learn. And the reason for that is because human nature always gets in the way. Even though we know we're supposed to sort, nobody wants to hear their mother say no to becoming a customer. Nobody wants to hear their best friend saying no, they won't even look at the opportunity. You start to take it personal, right? And then you get angry. You start thinking of all the things that you did for them. See, that will kill you in this business, because what is your only job when you're sorting is to separate the interested people from the uninterested people. That's it. Don't argue. with people. Don't debate them. Don't try to convince them. And don't try to change somebody's mind. That's not your job. And the worst thing you can do is sever a relationship because they don't want to be a part of what you're doing. There's nothing wrong if somebody says yes. There's nothing wrong if somebody says no. There's nothing wrong if somebody says maybe. You just have to know how to sort them out. Successful IBOs understand that you cannot say the right thing to the wrong person, and you cannot say the wrong thing to the right person, because successful IBOs understand it's timing, not talent, in which gets people to choose to do this or not. I'll give you an example. Imagine talking to one of your friends, and they just got a job promotion yesterday. They were recognized in front of all their peers and got a pay raise, and they're pretty excited about their opportunity. Now you say, hey, do you look at other things outside of what you do? Even if they said yes, they're not really dissatisfied with their current career path, so because of that, they're not going to show much interest. Or even if they did show up, they might not even sign up. Now, it's not because ACN is a bad opportunity. It's not because you did a bad presentation. It's because it was the timing in which you approached that person. Now, imagine the exact scenario where you approach someone and just in the last couple days, their boss took credit for everything that they did. We've all been in that position before where somebody else took credit for something you did. They got recognition, and they maybe were even rewarded from it. There's nothing more defeating than that, and it makes you feel like that you're just treated with disrespect, and you can't let that go, and it makes you feel terrible inside. And right now, what are you feeling? I got to do something else. I got to do something else. I can't live in this environment. All of a sudden, you approach that person, and you say, do you keep your options open? They go, yeah, what do you got? And the attitude is different. They look at the business, and they go, I'm going to do this because I got to get away from what I'm doing. So the thing is, it's not, again, your ability to present. It's not you. It's not the opportunity. It's just the timing in which you approach those people. Does that make sense to all of you guys? So and these are the basic things I learned that made sense to me where I go, okay, so if it really is timing and not talent, then why would I ever get emotional about someone that said yes, no, or maybe? As a matter of fact, I think my daughter's over there, and my son, Hassan. Are they over there? Come here, guys. I was wondering if you guys could help me out. Can you guys do it? This is Brooklyn. She's 7 years old. This is my son, Hudson. He's 6 years old. They're probably a little nervous because I've never done this before. But I was wondering if you guys could help me out and be an example for everybody. Can you do that? All right. I'm going to let you talk in this mic, but I'm going to ask you a question first. So hold that mic, and when you're ready, talk into it. So Hudson, I know that we've known each other for, not a long time, for about 6 years. But do you see an opportunity for yourself in ACN?
No.
Oh. Well, that hurt. Even on stage. It's my son. But guess what? Can you imagine if I said this? Well, then I guess you're not my son anymore. We don't sever relationships, guys. Here's how you respond to a no. Are you ready? Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. I'm going to give it a try, and I'll let you know how it goes, all right? But thanks a lot for listening. Can you imagine showing total appreciation just for somebody giving you their time? That's how you respond to a no. It's not like, you're a piece of garbage, I'm never going to talk to you again. Okay, can you help me out? Okay. So, Brooklyn, based on the information you saw, do you see an opportunity for yourself?
Maybe.
Maybe. That's better. Now what do we do with the maybes? We get them the information they need so they can make an informed decision. Because usually when people say maybe, it's because they don't understand every part of our business. They don't see it enough to say yes or no. So maybes are good, but maybes can lead to no, and maybes can lead to yes. But again, you don't get emotional about it. You say, no problem, let me get you what you need so you can make an informed decision. But can you do one more time for me? Brooklyn, do you see an opportunity for yourself?
Yes.
Ooh. How many love the yeses? Since that, you are my daughter. You are no longer my son. Can we give them a round of applause? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Hudson. I'll see you guys. Thank you. By the way, I don't know if you have a reason why. That's my reason why. That gives me purpose beyond anything in life. You know, it's great. So do you guys understand that? And people always say, well, how, you know, I always was taught that I've got to close people, close people, close people. That's what we do, right? Close, 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 close. Well, yeah, we close, but we never stop closing. What does closing actually mean? Just next step. Closing is just next step. Closing doesn't mean that when you're talking to someone that you have to get them to sign up on the spot right now or you won't work with them. Closing doesn't mean that if they don't become a customer right now, I'm not going to work with them. That's not what closing is. Closing is saying, how do I get them to see the bigger picture? So usually when somebody sees an opportunity presentation, most of the systems that you have in place today has a follow-up basic training. All you do is get them to that training. That's what you close for. People say, what do I do next? Listen, you just need to be at the training. It might be 2 days from now, it might be 4 days from now, it might be 1 day from now. You just need to be at the training. Because we know that the opportunity presentation is short, it's sweet, it's to the point, but it generates a little enthusiasm and excitement, but the training is what gives the substance. That's what gives the, here, this is what you do, this is how you do it. And that to me is more important than saying, sign up right now or I'm not going to work with you. So closing is not getting somebody to pay. Closing is getting to the next step. And that never stops in your business. Because after somebody goes to a basic training, I'm going to look and see if there's maybe a regional in my area or a leadership training in my area. I say, listen, there's a training coming up in 2 weeks. We've got this person coming in. You need to be there. Closing is always what's the next step. And the next step is a system. And that system is what's going to drive your people to not only sign up, but it's going to drive them to be successful in the business. Okay, another thing I learned the hard way was that if you want to be successful in network marketing, you need to focus on warm market. Now, it's not the only way you build your business, because I'm going to show you, how many of you would love to also be successful in cold market? Raise your hand. Okay. So here's what's interesting about warm market and cold market. It's kind of the same if you look at it a certain way. It's the most effective way to build a team because there's some element of trust with people that, you know, why am I holding this? I got a mic on. I knew something was different. Okay, so there's some element of trust with people that know each other. It could be just an acquaintance. It doesn't even have to be a full-blown relationship, but there's some element of trust. If there's recognition, there's a little bit more trust because somebody knows someone. But there's two types of warm markets. Everyone just thinks of the people they know. They think that's where it starts and that's where it ends. I've had people say to me years ago, you know, I've talked to everybody I know. I don't know what to do now. And I think what happened is they just missed the point. Okay? So there's two types of warm markets. There's yours and there's someone else's. How many of you know people? Raise your hand. How many of you know people that may know people you don't know? Guess what? That's still warm market. Just because you don't know them, it doesn't mean it's cold market. As long as it's connected through warm market, that is the most effective way to build. Now, if you were taught properly, I'm going to show you something. This is all for visual purposes only, just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. But if you were taught properly and you were a brand new IBO, so someone that is just getting started, you know, you're taught that your only job is to tap into your warm market, right? You simply invite them, that's it, nothing more. You invite them to look at a presentation, and by doing this, you put them in front of an expert, which really is anyone that's explaining a business other than you. It could be anybody. And people think an expert has to be an RVP or not. No, it could be an ETL. It's just anyone who can explain the business. But by putting that person that you're really close to in front of a third-party person to present, you can edify that person. And people say, well, edification, you know, some people take it too far. People take edification like, this person walks on water. No, they don't. They've been in a business for 3 weeks, okay? So just say it like it is. Say, I want you to listen to this person because they just achieved the executive team leader position in ACN, and one of their focuses is to expand this area, and they're doing me a huge favor by explaining this because I'm really new and I can't explain it. That's edification. It's just pointing that person to somebody that's going to help get them the information. So you don't got to take it, you know, crazy. Just keep it simple. Build that person up, and what happens is there's a level of respect there. Now, presentations are most effective if you can find a way to combine trust and respect. But let me show you where people kind of break down and they can't figure out how to connect the dots. Let's say you're an IBO and all of a sudden you've been in the business just long enough where you said, you know what, I don't want to depend on my upline doing my meetings anymore because I feel limited. I want to go, man, I'm ready to do this thing. So I want to do my own PBZs, I want to do my own trainings, I want to do my own meetings. You made that decision, right? So look, here's the difference. When you are in that position, sometimes you might randomly meet someone, right? You might find someone like at a fitness center that you've seen like 3 or 4 days in a row, and all of a sudden you go, I think I'm going to pique that person's interest. Maybe you went to a restaurant. Maybe somebody commented on one of your posts on social media and you wanted to direct message them. Think about this for 1 second. Okay, some of these people might be in this category of what I would call a stranger, right? So we all know when you're dealing with a stranger, you're going to lack trust. Does that make sense? Let me show you something here. Okay, whenever you're talking to anyone, you want to know that the most valuable thing that someone can bring you, again, like I said earlier, it's not them signing up. It's not their money. It's not them becoming a customer. The most valuable thing someone can offer you is their warm market. Why? Because it's warm market. So even if I'm talking to somebody that is in what I would call a cold market position, for me, it doesn't mean I can't utilize warm market to build my business, because I might pique the interest of someone. It might be a cold market person. We'll call them a cold market prospect. We know that there's absolutely no trust there. And by the way, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I want to tell you what I used to do, just so you understand how cold market really works. Back in the early 90s, before the internet, okay, you know what people used to do when they were looking for a job? They would open up their newspaper that was either delivered on their front porch. I know this sounds so strange to somebody, which cracks me up. They would open up their newspaper and they would go to the job section and they would look for a job. And anyone that was looking to hire somebody would post something in there that says, hey, you know, you can earn money, or you can do this, or you can do that. And people would look and they'd make phone calls. So we used to run ads to generate some cold market interest. And I remember I was so good at putting, you know, the ad, making it look so attractive. I used to field about 300 calls, I'm not exaggerating, per week from ads. And this was like normal for me. It was like a normal number. Do you know how many people I had to talk to if I'm having 300 people call me every single week? That's 1,200 people in a single month. You know how many people I'd sign up out of 1,200 people? I'd be lucky if I signed up one. And here's why. Because even though I'd meet people, even though their response was great, even though they made me feel like they were going to be committed to the business, and I even put all my eggs in that basket, I found someone, fine, this is going to be you know what? 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, 30 days later, they don't call me back. You know why? Because deep down inside, they don't trust me. They don't know me. They don't trust me. So even though they like the opportunity, even though it feels good, it's like, I just don't want to be let down. I just don't want to be taken advantage of. I don't really know this person. And then somebody says, hey, do you know that person? Oh, I don't know that person. What are you doing? Are you crazy? They can be influenced right out of the business. Cold market is next to impossible to not just get a commitment, but more importantly, to get them to do something. But I learned something over the years. I learned because there is no trust, knowing there is no trust with cold market people, the only thing we should do is just tap into their own market as soon as possible. Now think about what I'm saying. Knowing there's no trust with cold market, the only thing we should do is tap into their own market as fast as possible. So let me show you why this is beneficial. So let's say you're dealing with somebody, like I said, you met somebody at the fitness center, you approached them, you piqued their interest, and now you have an opportunity to do a presentation. Now, whether you met with them having coffee at Starbucks or you threw them on a Zoom, it doesn't matter. You're going to present ACN for the very first time to this person. Now remember, you already know, hey, they're not going to trust me. I know that. They're cold market, but I'm going to do the presentation anyways. So now you do the presentation, and when the meeting's over, you say, do you see an opportunity? And they say, yeah, I really like what I see. And then what you should do at this point, especially if you're dealing with cold market, don't say things like, well, let's get you committed, let's get you signed up, let's get you on the services, because all of that can make them go, the most important thing we want is for them to tap into their own market. So what I used to do, and this worked every time, every single time I did it, it worked. I said, listen, I don't want you to actually sign up unless you really understand the value of how this thing works. People go, really? Yeah, I don't want you to sign up. But here's what I want you to do, is I want you to think about who you know, that would be good at this business? Now, as I'm saying that, I know they've already got a couple people in mind, right? But I don't acknowledge. I say, I want you to think about who you might think would be good in this business. I say, all I want you to do is just put them in front of me within the next 24 hours. Let me explain the business, but here's why I want to do it, for two reasons. One, I'm going to work for you. I'm going to help you by explaining the business to anyone you bring me. But the second reason is I want you to see me do it and watch their reaction. Because if they say no, that might be an indication you shouldn't do the business. But if they say yes, that might be an indication you should do the business. But instead of taking that risk, just bring somebody to me and let me show you how this thing works. So when people leave me, they're thinking, what's the risks here? What's the risks? Well, there really is no risks. What do I have to lose? I got nothing to lose. Those will be the people that will put you in front of someone fast because you've eliminated all the risk. You've eliminated anything that they could talk to anybody about where somebody else could say, do you know that person? What did they ask you for? They asked you for money? So does that make sense to you guys? Eliminate that. But here's the beauty of it. Between that prospect, who's a cold market to you guys, by the way, between that prospect and their contacts, there is an element of trust. But because you are the presenter, you get that recognition, that edification, which means there is the respect. See that triangle, how it works? That's the easiest, fastest, and most effective way to work with cold market is to tap into their warm market as fast as you possibly can. So remember, presentations are most effective when you combine trust and respect. But remember, a leader has a role here, and it's to help the people that they're bringing in, to serve that person. But you want to see somebody get committed to the business? I'm going to tell you something. We always talk about the fear of loss, right? Fear of loss. They say it's more of a motivator than the promise of gain. But what is fear of loss? A fear of loss sometimes is just in people's heads. Like, what if I miss out? Like, I remember this guy that I used to work with. His name was Zoran Nedeljkovic. And he was one of my first recruits ever in the history of network marketing. And we used to open up offices in the early days, and he would show up every single day. He'd kick his feet up on the counter. He'd drink a coffee. He would write things down. And one day, after like 6 months where he didn't do one thing, I just said, "What are you doing, man?" I love that you're here, but why do you keep coming here? You don't do anything. He says, I don't know. He goes, I think your brother and you are kind of crazy. Like, I think you guys are actually going to hit. And I just want to be around when you do, because maybe I can get a little. And that really stuck with me. I'm going, what's he talking about? So sometimes when you're around motivated people that are really energetic and excited and always talking about vision and where they're going, there's other people around thinking, well, it's like a lottery. What if they do hit? And I said no to this. So some people, just through natural fear of loss, it's in their own head, nothing to do with you, just your excitement, your energy, your commitment, your belief, your focus, your determination. If people around you will automatically be fear of loss because they're afraid you might hit and they're going to miss. That's a weird thing, how people think. But why is this important? Because the fastest way to start generating that fear of loss is talk to a cold market's warm market. The moment you talk to a cold market's warm market, the fear of loss is already kicking in. That cold market person still doesn't trust you, but the opportunity of somebody saying yes to the business outweighs the fear of not knowing this person, because now the fear of loss is kicking in. Because what if their friend said, are you kidding? Did you sign up? Oh, no, I didn't. I just wanted to bring you into, I'm definitely in. We're going to do this thing. You want to see somebody get fear of loss? Now, what if that person brings their spouse in, or their friend, or their coworker? Next thing you know, this person's got 2 people that signed up. Fear of loss generates. It just drives. So what leaders understand, and again, I hope this is making sense. What leaders understand is that our only job is to get as many people as we possibly can in front of the opportunity. We want people to see it. That's it. I don't care who signs up. I don't care who doesn't sign up. That's not my job. If I'm going to create momentum, my job is to start with one person and turn that into more people and just get as many of these people to look at the opportunity as we possibly can, so I can start creating something from nothing. So I put a picture of eyes up there because this is what I used to do. I used to say to myself, it's the eyes on the business. It's eyes on the business. How many eyes have been on the business today? That's how I used to look at it. Like, did I show the business to someone? Was anyone's eyes on the business from me personally today? How about someone maybe I got interested yesterday? Did I get any eyes on the business from their warm market? My only job is to get eyes on the business. Present, 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 present. And once I get somebody that says, hey, I'm interested, because what do? We sort the interested people from the people that are not interested. If I get somebody interested, I say, great, who do you know? Who can I talk to within the next 24 hours? Speed and velocity. That's how you want to do it. When you're a leader, you are the greatest asset to your business. You're the greatest tool to your business, because everyone who joins, think about this for a minute, everyone who joins ACN, okay, you know what their biggest fear is? When they first get started, their first day, their first week, their first month, they're afraid that they might be put in a position where they've got to answer questions or explain the opportunity. They're afraid of that. They're thinking, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know what you know. And that fear is very overwhelming for a lot of people. And that's why it's so important that when you're running your systems, that you teach those systems in your basic training so you can show people, look, you don't have to do that. All you've got to do is invite. You just bring people here, we'll take care of the rest. The moment somebody sees the transition in their head, where all they've got to do is put somebody in front of you, that's it? How many of you would think that's pretty easy to do? You know, I had an upline. I wouldn't say my upline in network marketing, my very first upline, was the greatest upline in the world. He didn't live in our town, and he didn't work with us every single day, but he did work with us for 30 days. And there's one thing he did, I'll never forget, that actually worked. When my brother and I decided to join that company, we were asking him, we said, what do we do? What do we say? He says, nothing. He goes, I'm going to do everything for the next 30 days. And you just watch me do it. And he goes, I promise you, before the 30 days is up, you won't want me to do it anymore. You're going to do it yourself, because every presentation I do is going to be short. Every presentation I do is going to be exactly the same. Every joke I say is going to be the same. Every cliche is going to be the same. It's like listening to a song. If you hear me do this 5 times or 10 times in a row, I promise you, you'll want to do it, because it's pretty easy. But he said, if you ever interrupt me just once, I will walk away from that presentation and you have to finish. You just lean forward, nod your head, and let me do my work. Can I do that? I go, yeah. My brother and I put so many people in front of our first, back then we used to do PBRs. Our very first one was at our apartment. We had 30-something people in our very first one. You know why we were so confident about putting people in that PBRs? Because he already did a few one-on-ones for us. He did a few two-way meetings with us. So we knew what he was going to say, and that gave us confidence. We were so into his message, which was no different than our message, that we just kept putting people in front of him, and he gave us 30 days. But I remember that feeling that he gave us, and that feeling was, don't worry about it. That was his famous thing, don't worry about it. Okay? I'll handle it. I'll do the presentation. I'll do the basic training. People got questions, I'll answer those questions. Your only job is to put people in front of the information. That's it. You invite. And if somebody's interested, great. If somebody's not interested, who cares? Because we are in the what? Sorting business, not the selling business. And that's a lesson that he taught us, and it worked. So one of the things I always tried to mimic, you know, everything duplicates, right? Through my years of direct sales, is that whenever I went to a city, whenever I decided to work a market, whenever I wanted to create something from nothing, I always looked at myself as, okay, it's up to me. I'm going to make this work. So I'm going to do all the presentations. I'm going to do all the basic trainings. And you know what? I'm going to be great at it, because I'm not selling anybody, because I understood sorting. I'm just here to help. If somebody wants the information, great. If they don't want the information, no problem. If they like what they see, great. If they don't like what they see, no problem. I'm going to keep moving forward, keep moving forward, keep moving forward, keep moving forward. And once you get to that mindset, you're going to be incredible in this business. But you also have to be a business person. Okay, what does that mean? You know, you just can't just imagine going sailing with no sail. It doesn't make any sense. You've got to set goals. So if you're a business person, you've got to, how do you know whether you're effective or not? Okay, you've got to set goals. So for example, one of the goals that I used to set, and if you think of the position of regional director, and you can set any goal you want. I'm just going to show you an example of a goal, but more importantly, I'm going to show you how to achieve this goal. So when we say set a goal, the example is you want to get 20 open line CQs in your business every single month as an RD or higher. And even if you're an RVP or higher, you want to say, first of all, do you have the ability to get 20 CQs in your open line RD business every single month? Now, some of you say, I don't know if I have that ability. Well, you do all have that ability. If you just do the things that I'm telling you to do and just keep it simple. We all have that ability. But what if I showed you the fastest possible route to that every single month? Would you be interested in learning that? Okay, but you have to have a goal. Because if you can master that art of getting 20 in, what if you had one other person on your team that was just like you and they could do 20 every month? Wait a minute, what if the two of you had one more person each and they could do 20 a month? What if you had 10 people on your team that you trained them, they understood it, and now all of them could do 20 every single month? What's 20 times 10? How many of you would complain if you had 200 new IBOs joining your business every single month? Would you complain about that? This is when you start to understand leverage. But how do you get to that level? Because people think, how do I expand my business? How do I scale up? You scale up by increasing the number of people that can get 20 IBOs into their business every single month. Increase that number. It's not how many people you have on your team, it's how many leaders you have on your team, and leaders are people that are willing to present and train. It's just that simple. So let me give you an example. Okay, this is for visual purposes only, and for me, this was a game changer, what I'm about to show you, because it's something that, I don't know why, it was like a light bulb went on for me. I just woke up one day and it's made sense to me. What I'm about to show you, I saw so clearly that I almost got so excited because I go, man, I can do this. I can build. And here's what I learned. So here you are, right? Let's say this is the day you made a decision. You say, you know what, I'm going to be an expert. I'm not going to depend on anybody else. From today forward, I am now the expert. I'm going to go out there and start building my business. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, you ran into somebody. Actually, it was weird. You were driving your car, somebody was at a gas station next to you, you started a conversation, and they go, what do you do? And you go, oh my gosh, this is weird, but you pique their interest. Yeah, we're expanding a business in this area. Would you like to learn more? Yeah, absolutely. All right. You figure out how to communicate to each other. But knowing that that person is what? A cold market, the only thing we're concerned about is just getting their eyes on the business. I don't care whether they say yes, I don't care whether they say no. Get their eyes on the business. Now remember that effective presenters understand that most people, and I just say most, not all, but most people can invite up to 3 people to look at the opportunity with no recruiting skills whatsoever. How many of you have ever showed the business to somebody and within 24 hours somebody put you in front of 1 person or 2 people, but you never actually told them how to recruit? Do you know why most people can put up to 3 people in front of you? It's because every one of us have close contacts that we could just look at them and we could say everything wrong, do everything wrong, but they'll still show up. Like I forget, my very first network marketing company I ever went to, the guy I mentioned earlier, he actually said, he goes, listen, we got a training this weekend, don't talk to anybody till you come to training because I want you to be effective. I go, no problem. I was in my car and I had already called my brother Tony. And I said everything wrong. You gotta see this thing, man, we gotta put $5,000 in, it's a pyramid, it's awesome. You know, didn't know what we were talking about, right? Complete idiot. You know what Tony said? When's the next meeting? You know, I also invited him. I invited my friend John, and I invited my friend Dan to the next meeting, which was only a few days later. All of us ended up showing up to the meeting, and we were so jacked, so excited. But did I have good recruiting skills? No. But I had a couple people I could call that I was so close to that I didn't need those recruiting skills. That's what you got to leverage in network marketing. Knowing that everybody knows 1 person or 2 people or 3 people, and maybe it's only 3. Now, we know some people will do more and some people will do none, but if we know that that first 1 or 2 or 3 is easy, you don't even need a skill for that, then we got to tap into that ASAP. I'm going to tell you the number 1 mistake a networker does when they get into network marketing. They think that they have to be the recruiter. They recruit 10 people, 20 people, 50 people, all themselves. Okay, that's mistake number 1. You should never be a person that goes out and tries to recruit 10, 20, 30 people yourself. That's ridiculous. It's impossible to manage, right? But here's the second thing you don't want to do. You don't want to recruit 1 person and say, go get them. And you make that person go out and try to recruit 10, 20, or 30 people. That doesn't make any sense either. So how do we do it? You just focus on what you can do, but leverage just a little bit from a lot of people and watch how much momentum you can build, not only quickly, but really well. A lot of excitement, a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. So we've got this person here, right? You showed the presentation to them. They just looked at it. It's done. And you said, listen, I know we just met, but instead of me telling you how this works, I'd like to show you. So all I want you to think about is who you know that might be interested in a business like this. Let me meet them within the next 24 hours, and based on their response, you can decide whether you want to join or not. Because all I want to do is get to the warm market. That's all I care about, right? But let's say this person was really excited. So they led me to 3 people over the next 3 or 4 days. Maybe the following day I talked to one person, but they were pretty excited by that response, and they led me to 2 more. Would you be happy with that? But what do we do with those 3 people? Okay, exactly the same. You just get them to look at the business, and you say exactly the same thing. Here, I'm only here to help. My job is to explain. We've got a training coming up, but who do you know? Let's put somebody in front of the business within the next 24 to 48 hours. Now, I didn't ask them for money. I didn't ask them to become a customer. I said, let's put some people in front of the business within the next 24 to 48 hours. And this first person here, they put me in front of 2 people, and I made myself available. This person put me in front of 2, and this person put me in front of 1. What do I want them to do? Just look at the business, and I'm going to offer the same thing to them that I offered to the people above them and the contact that I made. I said, who do you know? Put some people in front of me within the next 24 to 48 hours. I'll explain the business for you. And you know what? Most importantly, I want to show you how this works versus telling you how this works. Let's just get some people to look at the business. Now, there's already excitement brewing. Now, this person here leads me to 1, but that person brought a friend. You ever invite someone to a meeting and they brought a friend? It was like an unintentional new recruit. It's like a friend bringing a friend. That's great. I always love that one. Okay, and usually that friend that they bring is there to investigate for them. But I always found the investigators signed up quicker than the actual person we were trying to get in the first place. This next person brings 2. This person brings 1. This person brings 2. What do we do here? We get these people to just look at the business, and we repeat. This person here looks at 2. This person looks at 1, gets 1. This person gets 2 people. And what do we get them to do? We get them to look at the business. Now, just look at this example right here. I'm going to stop right here. If you were to count how many people looked at the business, the total number here is 20. But do you realize the only person that invited more than 2 people was the person that you initially piqued? But not one other person here introduced more than 2. Some of them just introduced 1. But now, how many people do you have on your team? I'm saying on your team, but how many people do you have looking at the business? You have 20 people. And you know what your only objective was? Is to get them to look. That was your only objective. But the reason why this works and people will start signing up like crazy is fear of loss is normal. It's automatic. Once you get a couple people under somebody, they get so excited, they're going to come to you. I got to get signed up. I got to get in the system. Yeah, you got to get in the system. Or if you get them to your basic training, you don't even have to say it directly to that individual. You say, look, if you've gotten started in the business, you got 1 person interested, you need to get signed up. Keep it simple. But let me tell you why this works. And again, I'm glad I figured this out early in my career because it made building easy for me. It made it easy. But here's the difference. When you're creating momentum, you have to understand that leaders define momentum a little bit different than a new IBO. And there's nothing wrong with that. See, an experienced leader, they're more into the numbers because we're experienced, right? We want to see how many numbers we have, and we want to grow that number. That's how business people think. I want to grow this. If I had only 5 people join my business this month, well, I better have more than 5 join next month because now it's me plus 5. It's not just me alone now. And if I go into next month with only 5, I failed. Okay, because I didn't do any better than I did the first month, but I had 5 more people helping me. So professional leaders say, I'm going to grow this thing. And you can grow it to a certain size yourself, but then you start duplicating other presenters and trainers, and that's how you scale it up. But a brand new IBO, because they're inexperienced, they don't understand the model yet, they actually define momentum. And you're not going to walk up to somebody and say, hey, I know you're a brand new IBO. How do you define momentum? You don't say that. But how they imagine it, how they define it in their mind is just by the number of people looking at the business. And I'll give you one more example of that. I told you about the upline that Tony and I had. We did our first PBR. We had 30 people look at the business. He did a few one-on-ones and three-way meetings over the few days prior to that. Do you know what? After that PBR was done, with all those exposures, we only had 1 person sign up on the evening of our PBR. Only 1. Now, it was a very expensive business model at the time, but we had 1 person sign up. But you know how Tony and I felt? We were talking. We were talking that whole week, the next week, we were saying, do you believe how big this is getting? How big this is getting? Big. We signed up 1 person. but we were not experienced enough to look at the number. We were getting excited about the energy that was being created. Anyone in this room, if you've ever experienced massive momentum in one of your organization, it's just because this happened accidentally or organically, naturally, but you didn't have the intention to have it happen, but all of a sudden you get this one leg that explodes, and it's exactly because somebody brought somebody who brought somebody who brought somebody, and next thing you know, the thing got caught fire and just took right off. So, and I find there's a lot of people that experience momentum, but they don't know how they got the momentum, and that's why they can't recreate the momentum. You've got to be the kind of person that says, I can create this momentum anywhere, any place, anytime by understanding this basic stuff. So if I know that a brand new person just gets excited by people looking at the business, then that's what I'm going to focus on. Because all those eyes are going to turn into signups, and all those signups are going to turn into qualifications. All those qualifications are going to turn into people earning positions. But it's my job not to get hung up on one person, but focus on driving and creating that momentum. That's my job. That's what a leader does. And I'm going to be the greatest tool and the greatest asset for that organization because they need somebody to present for them. They need somebody to do the basic training for them. And if you could put yourself in that position, you will dominate and have massive control in this industry. But people always say, okay, what do? After you get your business going and after you sort? Okay, your job is to promote the ACN system. Now, everyone is going to have I call it a local system, and then we kind of have a big picture system. The local system is how you guys grind out the business week to week. Whatever system you guys are using, stick to that system. You got opportunity presentations and you got basic trainings. Promote that because that's going to be what you're building every single week to week to week to week to get that and create that momentum. But when we talk about the ACN system, people think it's something that we do. As a company. The ACN system starts with you, the leaders. You're the leaders that put their systems together in their local markets. You're the ones that actually make this work because everything starts off with the opportunity presentation itself. That leads to a basic core training. That leads to, at some point, there'll be an emerge training near you, which leads to what we're all in right now, which is called the Elevate event. Okay? So just remember that recruiting people I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Yeah, no, I did say it right. Recruiting people is instant. Any one of us can recruit. But enrolling people into this vision, enrolling people into the long term, that's a process. And that process can only be accomplished by having people be in the business over time, attending all these events, which lead right up to the one you're sitting in right now. This is the final chapter for you mentally. Now, from this point, where you go, the limitations or how big you are is based on what you do. But you can't walk out of here and say, I don't believe this is real. You can't do that now. We've taken that away from you. Now you know. Now what you do with it is going to be up to you. But how many of you in this room would have loved to have 100 more people in this room just on your team? How many of you would love to have 1,000 people in this room just on your team? I know you would because it makes common sense. So we know that another Elevate event is coming. You got to put that on your calendar, and no matter what you do in your local market, whether there's even a leadership meeting or maybe a regional, whatever, everything is to the next big event. Everyone's got to go. That's the attitude you got to have, and you got to tell people you've got to be there. Remember, leaders make things happen, okay? And everyone else just sits back and waits for things to happen. Thank you guys very much.